I'm Stacy. Standing in the middle of my sister Lily's wedding reception, I took a deep breath and stepped up to the microphone. The room fell silent as all eyes turned towards me. My heart was pounding, but I was determined. Just moments ago, my father had stood up, champagne glass in hand, and thanked me for giving my apartment as a wedding gift to Lily. The applause that followed felt like a heavy weight on my shoulders. I watched as Lily, in her beautiful white wedding dress, smiled and bowed, accepting the praise for a sacrifice that was never hers. I cleared my throat and began, "Dad, I appreciate the sentiment, but I need to clarify something. I didn't give my apartment away. In fact, I didn't even know it was being sold until 3 weeks ago." Gasps rippled through the crowd. My mother's face went pale, and my father's smile faltered. Lily's eyes met mine, and I saw a flicker of fear in them. I continued, "My parents sold my apartment without my knowledge or consent. They forged my signature on the sale documents. This is not a gift, it's a theft." My father tried to interrupt, but I held up my hand. "I'm not done, Dad. I have the original deed right here, with my name on it. I bought this apartment with 8 years of hard work and savings. I never authorized any sale." I pulled out the deed and held it up for everyone to see. Whispers spread through the room like wildfire. But that wasn't all. I took a deep breath and said, "There's another truth that needs to be told. For the past 4 years, I've been paying my parents' mortgage every month, $2,100. But Lily has been taking credit for it." My father staggered back, and Lily's face turned as white as her dress. I reached for the stack of bank statements and held them up. "These statements prove that every payment came from my account, with my name on it." "Lily, you knew it was me, but you told them it was you." Lily tried to speak, but her voice cracked. "I can explain." I shook my head. "You took credit for over $100,000 of my sacrifice. Every time Mom praised you, every time Dad thanked you, you smiled and said, 'You're welcome.' But it was my money, my sacrifice, and you stole it." Brandon, Lily's new husband, stood up slowly, his face a mask of shock. "Lily, did you lie to me?" Lily reached for him, but he stepped back. "4 years. You lied about money for 4 years." The room was in chaos. Guests were whispering, some were recording, and the Whitmore family, Lily's in-laws, looked furious. Mr. Whitmore Sr. walked towards me and asked to see the documents. I handed them over without hesitation. As he scanned the pages, his expression grew colder. "This is serious. Your family has some explaining to do." My mother pleaded with me, "Stacy, please. Not here, not now." I looked at her and said, "This is exactly where and when it needs to happen. I've been silent for too long." I turned to Lily. "You've always been the favorite, the one who gets everything. I've always been the one who sacrifices, the one who keeps quiet. But no more. As of today, I'm no longer paying your mortgage. You can start paying it yourself, since everyone already thinks you do." I set down the microphone and picked up my purse. I could hear the commotion behind me as I walked out of the ballroom. Claire, my best friend and a real estate attorney, was waiting for me by the door. "How do you feel?" she asked. "Like I just told the truth for the first time in my life," I replied. We got into her car and drove away from the wedding. As we drove, I started to think about how I got to this point. Growing up in the Thompson household, I always knew my place. Lily was 4 years younger than me, and she was the center of the family. She was charming, beautiful, and always got what she wanted. My parents, Mr. and Mrs. Thompson, had different expectations for us. When we were kids, both of us wanted to learn ballet. I was 12, and Lily was 8. My mother signed Lily up for private lessons at a fancy dance studio, while I was told that we couldn't afford it. "What about me?" I asked. My mother barely looked up from her magazine. Stacy, you're old enough to practice on your own. There are videos online. I watched as Lily skipped out of the house, wearing her brand new ballet shoes. I practiced in our living room, alone, with no one to notice or encourage me. As we got older, the pattern continued. When I wanted to join the school debate team, I was told that I needed to focus on my studies. 2 months later, Lily joined a drama club, and my parents bought her a new costume. When I complained, my father sat me down and said, "Stacy, don't be selfish. Your sister is more delicate. She needs more support. You've always been the strong one." So, I learned to be strong. I learned to stop asking for things. I learned that every time I spoke up, I became the difficult one, the jealous one. After graduating from college with honors in business, I got a job at a local accounting firm. I worked long hours, 60-hour weeks, and saved every penny. 8 years later, I was able to buy my own apartment. It was a small place, but it was mine. It was a symbol of my hard work and independence. The day I got the keys, I called my parents to share the news. My father's response was, "That's nice, honey. Does it have a spare room? Lily might need a place to stay for a while." There was no congratulations, no pride in his voice. Just a request for Lily. A few years later, my parents made a bad investment. My father, who always thought he was a great businessman, put all their savings into a risky startup. When the company went bankrupt, they were left with a huge mortgage and a foreclosure notice. I found out about it by accident when a letter from the bank arrived at my apartment. I didn't hesitate. I called the bank and set up automatic payments of $2,100 every month from my account. I didn't tell anyone because I didn't want them to feel ashamed. But Lily found out. A few months after I started paying, she borrowed my laptop to finish a work presentation. She must have seen the email confirmation from the bank. Instead of thanking me, she told our parents that she was the one paying the mortgage. My parents were overjoyed. They bragged about Lily's generosity to everyone. Meanwhile, I kept sending the money, month after month, never getting any credit. Then, Lily got engaged to Brandon Whitmore. Brandon came from a wealthy family. His father owned the largest law firm in the city, and his mother was a well-known socialite. When Lily brought Brandon home for the first time, I watched my parents transform. They were on their best behavior, trying to impress the Whitmores. They started planning a lavish wedding, a wedding that would cost $100,000. One night, I overheard my mother saying to my father, "Lily can't afford both the mortgage and the wedding. We need to find another way." I was confused. Lily was making about $3,000 a month at her entry-level PR job. How was she supposed to pay a $2,100 mortgage? But I dismissed the thought, thinking maybe she'd gotten a raise or Brandon was helping. A few weeks later, I got a call from my mother. She was laughing as she said, "Honey, we just wanted to thank you for the wedding gift. We sold your apartment, and we got a great price for it." I was in shock. "You what?" "I didn't agree to this." My father's voice came on the line. "Stacy, don't be dramatic. It's just an apartment. You're so capable. You'll find another place." I realized then that they had forged my signature. They had committed fraud, and they were laughing about it. I immediately called Claire. She was furious. She started looking into the transaction and found out that it wasn't finalized. The title company had flagged some inconsistencies with the signature. Claire also discovered that my mother had been bragging to people about how Lily had been paying the mortgage for years. I was devastated. I knew then that I had to expose the truth. I gathered all the evidence, including 4 years of bank statements, the original deed to my apartment, the canceled sale contract, and printed emails where my parents had promised to keep my documents safe. I also found a screenshot from the family group chat where Lily had said, "Don't worry about Stacy's apartment. She won't make a fuss. She never does." I decided to confront them at the wedding. I knew it would be a difficult thing to do, but I couldn't let them get away with it anymore. 3 days after the wedding, the fallout was still spreading. I heard from Claire that Brandon had moved out of Lily's apartment and was staying with his parents. The Whitmore family's lawyers were drawing up annulment papers. Lily's PR company had put her on indefinite leave. My parents' reputation in the community was in shambles. They hadn't shown their faces at church. I received messages from people I barely knew, saying things like, "I always knew something was off and your mom used to brag about Lily all the time, but never mentioned you." 2 weeks later, my father called. His voice sounded old and defeated. "Stacy, we got a letter from the bank. They're giving us 90 days. I said, "Have you asked Lily? She's been telling you she pays it for years." There was a long silence. Then he said, "She can't. She never could. We know that now." I replied, "I've always known. Why didn't you ask me before taking my apartment?" He had no answer. I told him that I wasn't paying the mortgage anymore and that they needed to figure things out as a family. I hung up the phone, knowing that things would never be the same. 2 months later, the house was sold. It barely covered the mortgage and the bank fees. My parents moved into a small 2-bedroom apartment across town, the same complex where Lily was now living. 6 months after the wedding, I was sitting in my apartment, watching the sunset through the bay window. I'd made some changes to the place. I'd repainted the bedroom a deeper shade of blue, bought new curtains, and replaced the old couch with a comfortable one that I'd chosen myself. Claire came over for dinner every Thursday. We'd cook, drink wine, and talk about everything except my family. One evening, a letter arrived. It was from my mother. She wrote, "Stacy, I'm sorry for everything. I'm sorry for not seeing you, for always putting Lily first. You deserved better. I see what we did, and I hope you can find it in your heart to forgive us someday." I read the letter twice and set it on the kitchen counter. It was a start, but I knew that actions would speak louder than words. My phone buzzed. It was a text from Lily. "I'm sorry for everything. Can we talk?" I stared at the text for a long time. A year ago, I would have immediately forgiven her and tried to make things right. But I wasn't that person anymore. I typed back, "Actions, not words. Show me you've changed, then we'll talk." I hit send and put the phone down. I looked around my apartment, my safe haven, and smiled. I'd finally learned to stand up for myself, and I knew that I didn't need anyone's permission to be enough. I already was. That's my story. If you've ever been in a similar situation, I hope my story gives you the courage to speak up and fight for what's right. Drop a comment and let me know what boundaries you've set in your life. And if this story resonates with you, subscribe to my channel for more stories like this. Thank you for being here with me.